Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. Indeed, strange things do happen in this world. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it is a translation of a message that I received. The translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nashi. Can you please post my story as hidden identity? Well, my brother, I want to confess that I am a son as well of a man who is a sangoma, who gives powerful charms to the pastors, especially those ones that do this thing of being fake prophets. Well, I come from an area in Zim that is called Gwanda, and we grew up, and when we grew up, my grandmother as well was a traditional healer. She had a lot of stuff that she would give out to people. There was once a man, and when this man came, even though we were still very young, but we were told by our grandmother that this man, he was a very big man in the Pentecostal churches. This man, when he came to our village at that time, he gave my grandmother a lot of money. Even the cows that we have right now back home in Gwanda, it was the money that my grandmother was given by that man, whom she said that was a very powerful Pentecostal man. He was not a pastor, but he was sort of like an evangelist, those ones that used to go around like preaching and giving out the word of God. So this man, he wanted like to ask for permission from his ancestors, because what had been happening to him at that time was that whenever he would go for these crusades, then his son will start to get really sick, like the son had some kind of a mental illness. So his ancestors, they were saying to him, who gave you the permission to do what you are doing? If you want to be a Christian, then you need to ask for our permission. So the man then came and spoke with my powerful grandmother, and they did a ceremony for him. And on that night, as the kalimbas were being played, that was when the ancestors started speaking through his son. This boy, he was just a small boy, but when he was speaking as if he was an adult, an old man, and he was speaking in Shona. At our place, we were speaking Ndebele. So when this man came with his son, the young boys that were there, even though they didn't know how to speak in Shona, they started speaking in Shona as if they were now the ancestors. And they said that they had given this man who was an evangelist the powers, and they had given him the permission. The man used to go around doing those crusades. After the death of my grandmother, my father was then chosen by my mother's relatives to continue with the work, because this thing, it was not supposed to be my father who was supposed to continue as a traditional healer, but some of my grandmother's relatives, some of them, they had already left the country. In those days, a lot of people were now running to the United Kingdom. So my father, he was the one who was like left behind, and some of my grandmother's relatives, they didn't want to continue with this tradition of being sangomas. So my father was the one who was told that if he wanted, he could take his mother's property, the one that she used when she was consulting. Well, my father, what he did then is that he started approaching. He was a man who had a lot of nerves. He would actually approach a pastor, and when he would approach that pastor, he would tell that pastor that I have this powers that has been left behind by my mother. If you want, I can give you some of those powers so that you can use it in your church. I still remember that there was this other man. This man, he wanted to start his own church in Zambia, but this man, he was connected to this other pastor who comes from Nigeria, and he wanted to start the church in Lusaka in Zambia. So the man then came, and when the man came, he was then given some charms by my own father, and these charms were to do prophetic healing and deliverance. My father was such a powerful man that he even went to Nigeria to meet up with that big pastor from Nigeria. Usually the charms, what they will do is that my father will give him a bed, and after giving him the bed, then the pastor would be given some grains, and then he had to throw the grains on the bed's head. and after doing that ritual, they will let the bird to fly. So as the bird will be flying, going into the fields, picking up the grain from the maize fields or from the sorghum fields, as long as that bird will be alive, the amount of the grains that it would have picked, those are the people that will start following the pastor. So you can just imagine how many followers these pastors, the powers that they were being given to make sure that the people that will be coming to their church will never stop coming to their church, because their spirit will be connected to the powers of this pastor. The only condition was that after the pastor will start to have a following, the pastor was supposed to return back to our home there in Gwanda, and they would come, and what they will do is that my father, he had this other cock, it was a black cock, and then he would bring it into the consulting room and he would throw some maize grain on the floor. The number of maize grains that this chicken was going to pick up and eat, those are the number of years that this pastor will be able to live a life without any controversies. If you can check most of these pastors that have a lot of powers, check at the end of their ministry or at the end of their life, there will be a lot of controversies. I have only seen one man who managed to die without having any controversies. He was a powerful man, that one. And most of these men who are these fake prophets, their life are filled with controversies. Usually soon after starting their ministry, 3 years or 4 years down the line, then a lot of controversies will start following them, because what would have happened is that if they came to my father to receive this gift and powers of healing and to convince people to follow them blindly, when the chicken eats up the grain, if the chicken eats up 3 grains, then those are the number of years that they will be able to be in this ministry of fake prophecies for 3 years without being followed by any controversies. So after the 3 years, they are supposed to come back. So that they can sacrifice any of their relative, but the powers of our shrine, usually they require that it is far much better for them to sacrifice one amongst their own children. If you check, these pastors, they will have a child that is in a wheelchair. They will have a child that is like a crippled. Most of these pastors, they will try by all means to make sure that this child will never be known by the world. I have seen some pastors who have brought some women from the same church. The pastor will deliberately impregnate a woman, and after impregnating that woman, then the pastor will bring that woman to my father's shrine, and then my father will make some markings on that woman's tummy, so that when this child will be born, the child will be born being crippled, and the pastor will pay this lady a lot of money so as to keep her out of church and to keep her hidden as much as he can. So this child, that is where the powers will be coming from. This will be the sacrifice, because in the spirit world, for you to be given something, you need to give something back to the spiritual realm. There was this other pastor as well who started his ministry. It was low key somewhere in 2010, but he secretly came to my father and he was collecting powers. We then started seeing this pastor, and he was appearing all over the newspapers. And what this pastor was doing was that whenever he would go into a different city to preach, he would make people to go sick. Yes, he actually had some demons that were following him. He had an army of demons. So let's say if he was preaching in Bulawayo, then these demons, before the crusade would have started, then the demons will go in that area where they will be pitching their tent. Then the demons will make sure that the people that are in that community will start getting sick, but from different diseases. Usually these pastors, they want those diseases that are very weird. They want someone who has like a tumor on his face, so that when this thing appears on the television, everyone can see that this is a magnificent prophecy and a miracle. If you check them, you'll see that usually when they are healing people, they usually heal people that have these illnesses that does not have any cure at all. It is because these illnesses, they are caused by these demons that follow them in the first place. They love to cure these people that will be on wheelchairs, the people that will be having tumors on their faces, half of the face nearly collapsing, people that will be having swollen legs. Those are the people that they favor, so that the cameras can be on them. So this man, that is what he was doing. He would go into a town with his team. Then the people will start bringing their loved ones, the ones that would be crippled, blind. Then the demons, as soon as he will start to command the demons out of those people, then the person that you will be praying for will start rolling over the floor as if the person will be like a snake. What will be happening at that time is that this pastor, he had been given the spirit of the marine. So the marine spirit that he had been given, it was like one who was like a snake, but very powerful in the kingdom of darkness. And when this spirit comes face to face with these demons that are of a lower rank, then the demons, they will start rolling over and over on the ground. So the normal human beings that will be there, they'll think that this is a normal miracle. But just like dogs, usually when a dog comes face to face with another dog that is of a higher rank, it usually rolls over on the ground. So this is what the demons will be doing. They'll be showing this marine spirit that was placed inside this pastor's body, showing that spirit that they are actually in obedience and they are not trying to fight with that spirit. So this man, he became a very powerful man. But soon after becoming a very powerful man, then it was somewhere in 2014, that was when the controversies started following him, because when he came to our homestead, even I laughed at this man, because after he had been given some maize grains, and when he was told by my father to throw the maize grains at that chicken that we used in our shrine, that chicken, it only picked 2 and it refused to pick even more. And then this man, he was like, so for only two years, that is the years that I have been given. And my father said, yes, this is what the spirit has given you, and you are not allowed to complain. Well, after 2 years, this man, he started cheating on his wife, and his wife, what she did was that she then set up some cameras, the very old TV cameras that they had back in those days. She secretly set those cameras in their bedroom. When the wife was not at the house, then the man brought this other young lady so that he can spend some good time with that young lady. But everything was recorded. That is how he stopped being a pastor. He retired, but he had made good money. Oh, Africa, right there was a message that was sent to me. But the good thing is that everything is just being exposed. Everything that happened is being exposed, so that the future generations can know that you need to be very careful. A lot of people, they have been robbed by these fake prophets, and now a lot of people have platforms where they can come and expose these fake prophets.